Good morning and welcome to our adult story time this morning. I have a special guest with me, as you can see. We're glad he could join us today. So welcome, Mr. Scrooge. Our stories this week are still being taken from the book Christmas is Coming, Traditions from Around the World, and it is a book that was written by Monika Utnik-Strugala. And today's story, very appropriate, is entitled The Ghosts of Christmas. The festive season is a time when people are nicer to one another. And that was even true of mean, unlovable old man named Scrooge. There's probably never been a crabbier old man than Ebenezer Scrooge. He wouldn't talk to anyone, and his answer to every greeting was just a nasty growl. He treated his employees badly and avoided his relatives like wildfire. The only thing that mattered in his life was money. Nothing else pleased him, and he seemed to love it more than he liked people. Everyone gave him a wide berth because they knew they could only expect unpleasantness from him. Until one night on Christmas Eve, when Scrooge came home and sat down as usual in his old armchair. The ghost of his deceased business partner, Jacob Marley, appeared to him. Like Scrooge, he had been a miser, and now, after his death, was suffering torment in hell as a result. That night, Scrooge was haunted by 3 more ghosts. Did these visitations cause Scrooge to change his ways? You can read the story in one of the most famous books in the world, A Christmas Carol by Charles Dickens. Dickens wrote the story to pay off his debts and never expected it to be such a huge success. To this day, the book is extremely popular, and several movies and animated films have been made of it. Ebenezer Scrooge was a real person, but he wasn't a miser at all. His actual name was Ebenezer Lennox Scroggie, and he traded in corn and wine. Dickens happened to come upon his tombstone in a graveyard in Edinburgh and mistakenly took him to be a miser. The inscription on his tombstone said he was a meal man, which means someone who trades in grain. But Dickens read it wrongly as a mean man. He was so moved by it that he came up with the idea of writing the book. What on earth would Mr. Scroggie have had to say? Perhaps he wouldn't have been terribly annoyed if he'd known that he'd accidentally become the hero of a famous story. A Christmas Carol was written in only 6 weeks. It appeared in the bookstores just before Christmas on December 19th, 1843. The first edition was sold out in a few days. And that was our story today. Thank you to our guest, Ebenezer Scrooge. We're glad you could join us today. And thank you for joining us for our adult story time. Until next time, stay healthy, be safe, and have a wonderful week.